Hello. So today I am talking about this concept of emotional eating, or maybe it's sometimes called stress eating. And I would like to discuss some key points to hopefully help you reframe some thoughts and help you, rather than thinking about how to heal or fix this, rather help you establish how you can take back control from whatever eating patterns you may be feeling need to be addressed or overcome. So we're going to talk about some of the roots of the issues, and we're going to talk about why it is that we go to food in the first place. And then I'm going to chat about ways that you can make emotional eating actually work for you in a healthy way, because yes, it can. And we'll talk about ways to amp up your self-care toolbox so that food is no longer this thing on a pedestal with this control. So the first step when working to address or overcome an emotional eating pattern is to tackle the thing that starts off the whole cycle. What starts the cycle is not the food. It's the guilt that is felt around the food. The cycle of this emotional eating pattern exists on guilt. So we eat something and then we feel guilty about it. This leads us to take actions to help us make us feel better about what we did or to fix the thing that we did. And then these actions lead us to feel like we need a release, to feel like something is off inside us and we need to let go. So we use food to help us feel that release, and then we feel guilty again, and the cycle restarts. So if we can stop and start to address that guilt piece that is happening, then we have the chance to actually change all of the actions that come afterwards. Diet culture is a very big and powerful part of our society, and it can affect us in ways that we don't even realize. It goes beyond even just the ads on the magazines or on TV. Diet culture has been sending us messages, each one of us, into our psyches since the moment we step foot on the planet, basically. And these messages hit on very core issues. They hit on our worth and our acceptance in society. These two things are primal human needs. Diet culture has instilled this belief in each one of us that says a certain amount of food or eating based on our emotions is wrong, and that doing so could therefore lead us to actually be cast out in society. That's a huge, huge, really big fear. So what you feel after eating too much or having eaten to comfort yourself is not only guilt, but it can also actually be a lot of fear about having done something morally wrong and where that is going to lead you. Now, diet culture is also a $70 billion industry, and it needs us to feel scared and feel guilty so that we keep buying into it, which is exactly what you do every time you keep going through that cycle and try to fix your guilt. Now, many of us go to food to soothe uncomfortable emotions like guilt and shame. So what causes us to feel this guilt and shame? The rules we are taught by diet culture. So understanding how diet culture actually is perpetuating you to continue on in this cycle can be a really big step in starting to take back control for yourself. So to start, the next time you feel guilty about having eaten based on an emotion or eating too much, I'd like you to ask yourself, where is this guilt coming from? Is it really coming from me, or is it coming from diet culture and what diet culture has told me I should believe? Now, the other thing that diet culture, as well as our society, has taught us is that comforting ourselves is wrong. Women, especially, grow up believing in this thing called human giver syndrome, which is the belief that we women need to be putting ourselves before others. Sorry, no, I said that wrong, that we need to be putting others before ourselves. Important difference, always. And that others' needs are more important than our own. And so tending to ourselves and showing ourselves comfort is not something we're supposed to do. So, you see, this creates a lot of underlying hidden stress bubbling underneath us all day long, women especially. Women go about our days trying to always do the right thing and follow all the right rules that we're supposed to follow, and feeling a fear about what would happen if we don't follow those rules. And these things are rubbing against our own needs and our own intuition. And they're conflicting with the things that we actually want to do for ourselves. And this underlying stress, this underlying clash and resistance against our intuition can absolutely lead to that feeling like we need a release. I like to use the image of a boiling pot of water. We try so hard all day to keep that lid down, but eventually the water is going to overflow. So if you find yourself at the end of a day or the end of a week, let's say, feeling like you just need to get home and let go, and maybe that involves thinking that all you want to do is sit on the couch and grab that comfort food and just forget everything, then the next step is to start asking yourself, what am I needing a release from? Where in my life am I trying to keep that lid down? Where am I putting others before myself? And where am I trying to follow rules that may not actually be aligned with what works for me and my body and what I want? And also, what am I not getting in my life? What am I not receiving, which I'm going to food to therefore get? We all have emotional needs. It is part of being human. And if those needs are not being met in our life, we will try to find themselves somewhere else. So if we can begin to ask these questions and start putting ourselves first in more areas of our life, then we can begin to lessen that need for the release at the end of the day or the end of our week. So, why food? Here's the thing about food and emotional eating. We all eat emotionally. Human beings eat for 3 reasons, not just one. We eat for physical hunger, we eat for appetite, and we eat for comfort. We are not wired to stay in discomfort. Our bodies are literally wired to seek out comfort to feel better. And food is literally something that does this. Food chemically releases something called dopamine, which can also be called our feel-good hormone. Dopamine is what gives us feelings of pleasure, and it boosts our mood. It also boosts our motivation, our attention, and our ability to learn. So dopamine is actually necessary for us to have, and it's also something that we will naturally seek out. Now, food releases dopamine to make us feel better because that is literally a survival mechanism. If food were not pleasurable, we wouldn't feel compelled to eat. And if we didn't feel compelled to eat, we wouldn't survive. So our bodies make food pleasurable to us so that we keep eating, so that we can keep living. So it's important to recognize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you for seeking pleasure from food. And there's also nothing wrong with you if it does make you feel better. It just means that you are a regularly working human and your body's messaging system is working. Now, the other reason we may find ourselves going to food or specific foods is that when we seek comfort, we often seek something that opposes the very thing we want release from. For instance, when it's loud, we seek release in solitude. When we're busy, we find release in a day off. So in diet culture, and feeling like we need to be following all these rules all the time are creating this underlying tension and stress in our bodies. How are we going to go and find release from that? From doing the opposite, from disobeying the rules, by giving ourselves the thing that we usually tell ourselves we can't have. It can feel like we're coming up for air. It's also been proven that forbidden foods are literally more pleasurable. The reward and the pleasure centers in your brain literally get activated more in response to a food that's been off limits. And this actually releases more dopamine, which again is something we crave. So if you find yourself cracking open that bag or box of whatever it is that you've told yourself you shouldn't have on a Friday night at the end of a long week, then know that this is just another way your body is trying to get that extra dopamine and that feeling of pleasure that it's programmed to want. Now, a way to help this is to start working on that relationship with those food rules that you're telling yourself. If you can work on your mindset surrounding good and bad foods, which has been programmed into you by diet culture, your body will stop yearning and calling out so loudly for those forbidden foods because there won't be any. And you won't find yourself feeling guilty for breaking those rules because there'll be none to break. And again, without that guilt, you won't start that cycle. So ultimately, the more you can tell your body it's allowed to have what it wants, actually, the less out of control you're going to feel around those items. Our brains are just like children. They're going to want what they can't have. And they will ask for it very loudly. Now, the next point I want to discuss is, when does emotional eating actually become a concern? Now, when food is the only thing that you feel you have to cope with your emotions, which you have because you're human, then yes, this can start to do more harm than good. And this is when you need to honestly assess your relationship with food and eating and the role that it's playing in your life. It also becomes a concern when eating is no longer used to soothe your emotions, but rather numb your emotions. And there's a significant difference here. When there is maybe some dissociation involved with eating. Now, I am not speaking to binge eating in this talk. I'm talking about something very different. So know that if binge eating is something you struggle with, you are deserving of support and care to help you through that. Now, in terms of emotional eating, I always encourage the women that I work with to honestly assess first, where is my guilt coming from? And then to also ask themselves questions like, did I feel in control when I went to the food? Do I remember making the choice? Was I honestly trying, and trying be a key word here, to listen to my needs of that moment? If so, then emotional eating does not have to be a bad or harmful thing. Finding a way to comfort yourself using food is not a bad thing. It's good to comfort yourself, and it's a human response to use food. However, we just need to make sure that you are still the one that's in control of these choices, and that you use food in a way that is actually going to make you feel better, like you want it to. And the key to letting food be in your life as a healthy way to soothe your emotions is through intentionality. So to be intentional about your choices. Intentionality can help you savor the experience of eating, which enables food to do what it's supposed to do. It's when eating becomes impulsive and reactive that you are more likely to feel disconnected. And this disconnection is what can lead to guilt. So if you're feeling sad or stressed or lonely, how can you go to food in a way that's in your control and that will actually help you feel better? Some examples that I love to throw out are, if Is there a recipe that you used to have all the time when you were younger that fills you with this sense of nostalgia or comfort? Then plan a time to go get those ingredients and make that recipe or that meal for yourself. Plan to make dinner with your partner or family member on a Friday night and play music and talk while doing so, so you create a positive experience around the food. If you feel sad or lonely, can you go to a cafe and buy yourself that favorite baked good and a latte to get out and just give yourself that space? Can you eat while journaling or eating outside in the sun? Or choose to celebrate yourself for getting through the week and take yourself out for lunch on a hump day. These are all ways that you can shift your mood and release stress and feel better that involve food, but in ways that are intentional and that can actually protect you from feeling that big need for release at the end of the week. So lastly, I want to talk just about coping and other tools that we can put in our toolbox to help us cope and to help with our self-care. Because like I said, we need to make sure that food is not the only thing you have to soothe your emotions, because we want food to be a conscious choice so that it works. We want you to be able to choose what form of comfort you actually want in the moment and be able to choose the healthiest option for you. So what other tools do you have in your toolbox? I encourage my clients to find sensory items. So things like essential oils for smelling, or heat pad for feeling, or to go to your favorite house coat and fuzzy slippers, take out pictures of loved ones or home videos, or put on music, old CDs that you used to love. These are all things that can soothe us in the moment because they touch on our senses. Other things you can do are, in those moments when you feel uncomfortable or you feel that stress or anxiety or sadness come on, can you call someone? Can you take out a journal and write, or an adult coloring book? Going outside, going for a slow walk, or taking a shower or bath. If you're feeling stressed and need that release, then it's also important to find things that are going to match the emotion that you're feeling. So for instance, if you're feeling angry and really pent up, maybe clean the floors or clean the garage or organize a set of drawers. I encourage you to literally make a list of things for yourself that could offer you a sense of comfort. And have that list nearby, or have a literal box of items nearby. So in the moment, you don't just revert to old ways of coping, but rather you have items ready to go so you don't need to think about it. Because let's face it, in those moments at the end of the week, when you're tired or you have emotions, your rational brain isn't going to be there. You're going to be in survival mode and you're going to want a quick fix. And so we need to make sure it's easy for you to make the best choice for you. And you can still feel empowered knowing that food is absolutely there as a choice if it's truly the thing that you need. And often it is. But you know that it's not the only choice you have for yourself. So to wrap everything up, know that emotional eating is something that you've been experiencing and you feel concerned about. Know first of all that there is nothing wrong with you, and that there's nothing wrong with you for wanting to offer yourself comfort, especially in these times that we're in. But also know that you can free yourself from that guilt and start to feel more in control of your choices by recognizing why you're actually feeling this guilt, by recognizing what you are missing in your life or what you are actually trying to soothe, and then empowering yourself by planning in other ways to offer your self-care. I hope this makes sense. If you have any comments, let me know in the comments below. You can always visit my website, comingbackwhole.com, to learn more about the kind of work that I do and offer my clients, or visit me on Instagram at comingbackwhole, and let me know that you heard me talk and if you have any questions.